President Cyril Ramaphosa is today expected to close the three-day ANC NEC meeting in Boksburg. For more on that, we now cross to our reporter, Natasha Phiri. Natasha, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. In fact, I know that the address was supposed to take place sometime in the previous hour. Just take us back to the weekend. What were some of the highlights of this ANC NEC meeting? Of course, we know that the party's own reflection on what it has done to renew itself was also high on the agenda.
Well, you're quite right, Unathi. And just before I answer that question, indeed, ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa was supposed to address us members of the media and give his closing remarks at 3 p.m. Unathi. But we are told that this address will then take place at 6 p.m. because ANC members and, of course, ANC officials are still behind closed doors, just wrapping up the business of the weekend. But you're quite right. You talk about the renewal of the ANC, and this has also once again come under the spotlight and raised by the former ANC President Thabo Mbeki. Remember when he was addressing mourners or attendees at Aziz Pahad's memorial last week, he had actually, this issue of renewal had actually come under the spotlight, United. And also, he had given the assertion that the governing party had failed to implement its 2017 renewal project. And of course, just speaking to the Secretary General of the ANC, they have welcomed this criticism and had indicated that the renewal project of the ANC had actually started and that the governing party had actually created a commission or committee which is headed by ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa and of course convened there by the Secretary General of the ANC, Mr. Phiri. And he had said that renewal of the ANC is an ongoing process. They have started with it, but they won't reduce it to any form of a commission or a committee. So they had said that they are still engaging with former ANC President. It's not the first time that he has criticized the ANC. Last year he criticized the quality of leadership with the ANC, and of course who could forget that scathing letter that he penned earlier on this year. But among other issues, Unathi, one that has been being preoccupied with our news headlines as international media and all around the world is the Israel and Palestine conflict. Of course, there we saw ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa as well as his officials and NEC members wearing Palestinian scarves and of course pledging solidarity to the people of Palestine, but also Unathi, calling for peace from both sides and lamenting the loss of lives from both sides. Of course, we've had mixed reactions from various political parties, some pledging support with the people of Palestine, others with the people of Israel. But of course, in his remarks to members of the media on Saturday, ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa had said that the only solution to the problem in the Middle East, particularly between Israel and Palestine, is a two-state solution. He also expressed his fears that perhaps this war would actually spill out, beyond these two countries. Other issues, Unathi, that the ANC had been preoccupied with, issues around service delivery, issues around coalitions and next year's elections. You would remember just earlier on this year in September, before the ANC had its mid-review manifesto, launched in Dobsonville, it had reiterated, and ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa had said that come 2024, load shedding would be a thing of the past. And of course, we saw that briefing there by members of the ETC committee, Mamoloko Kobai and Hosiense Ramakgopa, who's also the energy minister, saying that a number of strides have been made to ensure that load shedding is reduced, but South Africa is not out of the woods yet. He also I also heard him earlier on today reiterating the same sentiments at the hydrogen conference. Also other issues around the cost-cutting measures, Treasury's cost-cutting measures and the directives given to other government departments. They also spoke on that, Unathi, and Mamoloko Kubai, they are saying that members of the tripartite alliance, the SABC and COSATU, actually formed part of a task team that was actually set up to monitor this cost-cutting taking measures. And of course, you would remember that these members of the Tripartite Alliance, the SABC and COSATU, were particularly unhappy about this issue. But of course, they have met of these issues. And of course, this and a solution will be deliberated further on, as tomorrow there is a media briefing that is expected to be briefed. Well, members of the media are expected to be briefed by the Secretary General of the ANC, Mr. Phiri Mbalula. Other issues that were also raised yesterday, you would remember the 15th of October was the deadline for, the ANC candidate list process. For those who don't know, the initial deadline was actually in September, but because branches of the ANC, only 46% of branches of the ANC at that time had sat, and not all 4,000 branches had actually sat to elect their preferred candidates or representatives that they would be sending to provincial legislatures and the National Assembly post next year's elections. That process had not concluded, henceforth the extension. But the ANC is quite confident that, most of their branches had actually sat to actually conclude that process. There were also a number of briefings around water, around the census reports that actually came out. The elections, like I said, the issue of coalitions, you would remember time and time past, the ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa had said that the ANC is in it to win it next year. Come 2024, they're still going to be the governing party. They're still also going to win the elections by an outright majority. And this is despite we've seen in the past or recently the formation of the multi-party charter, a pre-election coalition that consists of, opposition parties from the Democratic Alliance, from the FF Plus, from the IFP, Action SA, and other political parties. And it would be interesting to know that these political parties united actually embarked on, a working visit or a studying visit, as some might call it, to actually study the nature of coalitions in Germany. Some leaders, the leaders that actually returned from Germany just yesterday, we spoke to the IFP president there, Mr. Ntlabisa, yesterday, confirming that indeed some of those leaders, including those party leaders, as well as the likes of ACDP President Kenneth Mishra and Busa President Musi Maimane, had embarked on this trip to Germany to actually study how coalitions work and coalition building. And this is ahead of next year's crucial elections, where they say they want to unseat the ANC and ensure that the EFF actually gets out of power. So, I mean, these are just some of the issues that will be discussed or that were discussed over this weekend, Unati. And of course, we await that feedback by ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa. And of course, on other matters that won't be clarified, because my understanding is that members of the media won't be allowed to ask questions today. But of course, some questions will be posed to the Secretary General of the governing party.